The king who repented. This story of Manasseh is a fascinating story. He was king longer than any other king in the history of Israel. Going from Saul to David to Solomon, the divided kingdom, all of it. 55 years. In actuality, he was co-king for 10 years. His father, Hezekiah, was one of those rare people who knew when he was going to die. God had told him, you'll live for 15 more years. So after 5 years, he made his son co-king to get him ready. So from the time that Manasseh was 12 until he was 22, he served with his father. At that point, his father died and he became king. Now, Manasseh knew that his father was a great king, one who thought outside the box, one who could prepare. He could go up against a world power and God was with him and he could win. But Manasseh knew he was not that. He then figured that what he needed to do was just go completely pro-Assyria. Get on board, join their team. And he did. He became a very loyal subject, still keeping a certain amount of independence, but being right there. Assyrian history records how under one of their kings, that Manasseh was one of those people who would be there supplying things when they were in a building, like a big building project or doing something. Manasseh supplied things. Later on, when Assyria finally conquered Egypt, Manasseh was right there. He was a part of the team. He helped them get that done. They only kept Egypt for 7 years. And at that point, Assyria started to crumble from within. And anytime that's happening, you start to blame whoever you can blame when you start to crumble. And so one of the things that happened is they said that Manasseh was no longer loyal, which best we can figure wasn't true. He was loyal to Assyria from start to finish. But they went and got him, hook in his nose, chains, led him away, and the way they did things, he probably didn't ride a horse or a chariot. He probably could walk and probably walk naked all the way back, and took him to Babylon, the rebuilt city. And there he met the king of Assyria and was put in prison. And that's when he makes the change. That's when he calls out to God. And whether it's because he did call out to God and God gave him wisdom, or what else was going on, but at that point right there, he not only reconciled with God, he reconciled with the king of Assyria. As I was saying, Assyria was crumbling from within. Egypt had rebelled and were now going after them. They needed somebody down there in that lower crescent area to be a buffer. Manasseh said, I'm your man. Put me down there. I will be there and fight your cause. But he worked a deal. It wasn't just going to be the way it was before. First of all, he wanted freedom to worship God. That wasn't a problem with Assyria, because basically they had been a freedom of religion country. People still followed the gods of Assyria, but it's not because they insisted upon it. They felt that would put them in good graces with Assyria, and two, they felt like if God gave them victory, it must be a pretty good God. Well, Manasseh now realized, I can worship God, I have to worship God. And so he he got that freedom. Secondly, he wanted to be able to rebuild the city and rebuild his military. They agreed. They agreed because he needed to be strong to fight against Egypt. So when he went home stronger. He had a relationship with God, and he had certain freedoms to do what he needed to do. And so he reestablished the worship to God, rebuilt the walls, strengthened the military. At the end of 55 years, he finally died, and his son, Ammon. I always think of Ammon as someone who didn't get the memo. He didn't know. He didn't learn what his father had learned. It was still the way that his father was in his earlier years. And so he was a wicked king, but only ruled for 2 years. When he was killed, then his son became king. And that leads us into the years with Josiah, one of the great kings of Judah. But that's in the next story. And so we will save that for next week. Well, I trust that you are enjoying these insights on the story, give you a little bit more of the background of what's going on. I trust you come back next week when we continue on with insights on the story of the week. We'll see you next week.